Welcome to Leaders and Learners. My name is Tanya Mackenzie, and you can find me at the intersection of public relations and leadership. Join us as we talk to organizational leaders, elected officials, experts, authors, artists, and personalities, sharing their stories, talking about how they got to where they are and how they continue to learn and lead the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey guys. It's Tanya, back with another dope episode of Leaders and Learners. Listen, it's been a minute, but I have something for you. I have a story for you that's going to touch your heart, mind, and soul, and hopefully your memory to bring forth someone that might be a great fit for what we're talking about today. You know, leadership is a big deal in PR and most everything that I do. It matters how people step up in times of triumph and in trial. So when things are hard, how do you rebound from them? How do you recover and not only solve problems that got you in a certain position, but make this world a better place? Make sure that you are leaving it better than you got it. Today, I'm introducing you to Mr. Ian Sadler, and he's going to talk about a solution that he came up with to a problem that many of us have been able to acknowledge but not bring forth solutions. So I don't want to give it all to you, but I would want him to let you know about his story and what he's doing to lead the way. So without further ado, Mr. Ian, hi, how are you?
Hey, Tanya, how are you? Thank you so much for having me today. Real
It's so
pleasure.
hard for me to not tell them everything, but I definitely want this to be an opportunity for you to share your
Sure,
story and how you are
sure,
leaving this world better than you got it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to you, but let the people know a little bit about you and kind of
sure,
what you have going on these days.
sure. Thanks. So it's really not me, is what I would start with. Uh, I'm a parent, like I suspect many folks out there, and I had one of the hardest things that anyone can ever have happen to them, which is I got a phone call in the middle of the night. My 9-year-old daughter was on her first year away at sleepaway camp. She was supposed to come home. We had the bags packed to pick her up, and me and my wife and my 6-year-old son at the time, and got a phone call saying Riley's not well. Then I got another call saying you need to get up here. Um, and I took a 4-hour Uber up to the hospital with a fellow parent who couldn't have been kinder. And unfortunately, when I arrived at the hospital, my daughter Riley was gone. She was simply too far away from a hospital. And by the time she had actually gotten there, um, she was gone. So I had to explain this to my wife, who was an hour behind. Um, and I spent 3 days with my daughter Riley while she was hooked up to machines because we tried to donate as many of her organs as we could. And during that time, we started Riley's Way. And Riley's Way is almost 8 years old at this point, and it was born out of and unimaginable tragedy, but it was also born out of the fact that our 9-year-old was a special little girl. Like I'm sure many folks have special children out there, and Riley was she was a good student, not a great student. She was a good athlete, not a great athlete. But what she was, Tanya, was she was the most incredible friend that anybody could ever imagine. And what she really loved doing was, sorry, I'm going to keep it together. It's 8 years, and it doesn't get easier. But Riley was an incredible friend, and she loved bringing her friends together from different walks of life. And she was having the time of her life at sleepaway camp. And we looked to a bunch of different. We raised a lot of money. People, this is every parent's worst nightmare, and so the story resonated, and so we raised a lot of money, and I got a bunch of my friends and my wife Mackenzie friends and friends of Riley together, and we had to figure out what we were going to do. And I'm very fortunate that one of our board members who was the headmaster at Riley's school, he really pushed us to anchor on the way Riley lived and our love of friendship. And so through that, we built out Riley's Way. And, what we're trying to do with Riley's Way is, in one respect, pretty bold. We're trying to change the world. But we plan on doing it over many generations. And what we are aiming to do is, through a series of interconnected programs, to provide the scaffolding and support for the next generation of kind leaders. And so our goal with this is to be a youth-led organization. We have teens on our board. Every person we hire, all of our our national program, which is our Call for Kindness, our teens are judges as well as participants. Not if they're participating will we have them judge. And we believe that kind leadership is needed today more than anything. And we could talk about the state of America, the state of the world. We could talk about politics. I mean, there are all these issues out there. And what we believe is by bringing our teens together, letting them know they're not alone, and forging meaningful connections like Riley loved to do with her friends, we have the next generation of nonprofit leaders, of future senators, of future CEOs, and future activists. And our job is to get in front of as many of them as we can, raise our hands, and try to help them on their journey, which the irony of all this, and I'll take a pause, is going through this journey and trying to create this path for our teens has pretty much saved my life, because it's almost impossible when you spend 8 years working with, we started from nothing, and I have 7 full-time staff who are the most unbelievable humans you could ever imagine. So you spend your time with them and with our teens, and you can't help but change your disposition on life. And I've always been a glass is half full individual, as was Riley, but I got so much more back and continue to from our community than anything that my wife Mackenzie and I give into it. So let me pause, and I'm happy to kind of go wherever you'd like.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing the story. Let me clarify a couple things. This was 8
Sure.
years ago, and she was 9, so she'd be about 17 right now.
She would.
Getting ready to graduate high school, right?
Should be. Yeah, her class is about to be seniors, and a whole host of her friends, in addition to my friends' children, are very active participants in our work, which is just, I don't even have the words to describe. I mean, one of her best friends is one of our interns right now, and to have that continuity, and to see how much her friends both love her but also love what we're doing. And it's a way, listen, as a parent, all you really want to do in a situation like that is to not have your child go away, right? To make sure people know what a special person she was. And so I have now thousands, going upon millions of people who know what a special little girl Riley was.
Was she an only child at the time?
She wasn't. My son Brody was 6. He's now 14. We're actually in the process of, so we run 3 different programs. We run a national Call for Kindness campaign where we provide micro grants that and have a whole cohort of leaders. So that is our core program. And then we have within the tri-state area, we have youth councils, which are really our laboratories for ideas. And then we run a series of retreats, both virtual and in person. And what's really cool, where Brody goes to school at Browning, that's going to end up being our first chapter at a boys' school. So that's pretty special, because this is work that goes beyond gender, and even the notion of gender has become so fluid. And that's one of the many topics that our teens address with their work.
What was his life like after he lost his sister? Can you express that to us? What he was, how his disposition changed, and how you've been able to guide him?
It's a very poignant question, Tanya. I've got an amazing group of friends. So, about a month after Riley passed away, we were still in shock and recovering from the immediacy of losing Riley. And I ran into a very good friend of mine, who had lost her brother when she was a teenager. And most people at this time either don't know what to say to me, or have come up and are just overwhelmed with grief and just reaching out and saying just how unimaginably sorry they are. And my friend didn't do that. My friend almost ran up to me, and she grabbed me and she's like, "You need to make sure that you don't forget your son." Because one of the common side effects from this is that the parents are so torn up in grief, and the statistics around what this does to families, what it does to individuals, are just horrible. But she had suffered from for many years from parents who were so stuck in their grief and the loss of their son that they basically forgot about her when she was growing up. And so I'm so lucky. I had this incredible group of friends, and this particular friend made it, really reinforced this point to me. So we went out of our way to make sure that our son Brody felt loved and felt heard as he went through this. He was starting kindergarten at the time, so it took him years, I think, to really come around and kind of express his views on losing his sister. When you lose a child, when you lose a sibling, it's not like there's an end date. It's just like how fast and how often the waves hit you. And so Brody, just like me and my wife Mackenzie, we all navigate life with this loss. But Brody is incredibly kind, very, very sweet. He's very interested in the work we do. We also we have a 6-year-old Ruby Rye, who is now Brody's younger sister, and it is just a joy to all of us. So for the three of us, for Mackenzie, me, and Brody, it's a journey we go through, and quite honestly, Brody now at 14 you're starting to see some of the effects of what he's dealt with. But I also think, and I'm incredibly proud of this, that he very much, we talk about Riley whenever we can. I think that's one of the myths here. Like, people, we when you lose a child, you want to see pictures of her. You want people to talk about her. It's true when anybody loses anybody. You just don't want them to fully go out. So you hold them in your heart. And Brody's on his own journey. We're doing our best with him. And I, as a 14-year-old, I couldn't be prouder of him and how he's kind of managed the loss of his sister. They were incredibly close, and I'm sure it was his first summer alone with us, and he clearly had to deal with a whole bunch of issues that we all do through this process. You blame yourself. There's guilt. There's all sorts of, what if I did this? What if camp ended 2 days early? There are all these equations that run into your mind until you realize that we're all mortal and things do happen, and we're made up in life by how we handle things and how we choose to forge a path forward. I can't hear you.
What did she pass from? Do you mind sharing that?
I don't mind. I mentioned that when she was in the hospital, we made a conscious choice to try to donate as many of our organs as we could. And so while there was an autopsy, we got a pretty unsatisfactory answer, which is, we were told there was something called epiglottitis, which is your epiglottis swelling up and blocking air to your brain. Everybody gets vaccinated. It's not something that is common at all anymore. but we donated both of her kidneys. In fact, one of her kidneys went into a grandmother. I never understood. I never realized that a 9-year-old's kidney could go into a 64-year-old. But those were conscious. We were told if we really wanted to get to the bottom of what happened, we should not donate her organs. But that was not even a choice for us. Riley was the most, you could never take a smile off her face. She was the most life affirming, positive human I'd ever come across. And so, whatever it wasn't going to bring her back. And so, the idea that we could put some of her into other people was a no-brainer for us. And
you keep in touch.
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with some of these people that you donated?
So there's a program. It was through a program called Donate for Life, and it's really remarkable. We did exchange letters back and forth with one of the grandmother who told us about this, and like I said, it's beautiful that she holds Riley's kidney. We had hoped that more of her organs would go to other people, but people, honestly, because we really didn't know what happened to her, there wasn't an ability to put more than her kidneys into anyone else. And so it was very meaningful to see who this went to, and to know that there's some part of her inside somebody else.
So let's talk about this organization you started in your daughter's name. Now, I absolutely love the fact that there is an opportunity for young people to do more and make things happen that are bigger than themselves. This is something that I get often. Women will call, email, or write and work with me because they want to hold a leadership position, whether it be in their community, a job, or politics. And they always start with, I don't see myself as someone that can win, or I don't see myself as a leader, or I don't think I'm qualified. And these are grown people, accomplished people, many of them, multiple degrees, and they still don't see themselves as a leader or as someone that can win an election. And when we start talking about all the things that make them more qualified than probably the people holding those positions at that time, it's crazy to me how almost overqualified they are. And you have an organization now where you are helping young people do what old people can't even do. So let's talk about how they come to you and how you get them to recognize that thing inside of them that at the end of the day can change the world.
Sure. So it starts with the first program that we started doing with our teens, which is our Riley's Way Councils. So we went to an amazing group of schools called the Young Women's Leadership Network. It's now called Student Leadership Network. These are a bunch of schools in the tri-state area that Ann Tish had started a little bit over 20 years ago, that were modeled after some of the private independent schools in New York City, but were intended for first generation students of lower income. And I was fortunate enough to have a board member who knew some of the senior folks there, and so I went over to the Young Women's Leadership Network to my friend and now board member Laura Rebel Gross, and she's very used to people like me or who look like me coming and donating money. And I came and I said, I have this idea. I want to take, Riley went to school at Nightingale Bamford, and I said, I want to take these students from Nightingale Bamford, and at the time the first school we approached was the Young Women's Leadership School in East Harlem, and I said, I want to put them together. Students who maybe would meet each other on a college campus but may never meet each other, and put them together and give them opportunities to lead and to give them the scaffolding and support to figure out what breaks their heart and to actually put some real dollars for them to spend to try to make some meaningful change. That was a really good meeting. And what came out of that is we now have 4 of these relationships between them. Yeah. So, and it's what I'm so proud of is that our students were dealing with issues like the impact of mass incarceration on families well before the murder of George Floyd, right? So well before the greatest social justice movement we've seen in the last 50, 60 years, our teens were busy meeting with families where you had individuals who found themselves in prison and were coming back out and really addressing what those impacts were. Like, these are not coming and taking like little topics, and our students really went to the heart of core issues. What's amazing is we have applications on whenever we have our councils to apply. And what we do is we go to our teachers and within the network, and we ask them to figure out who would be the right participants and encourage them to apply. And the journey that we see these students from 9th grade to 12th grade go on is nothing short of remarkable. So we had a retreat up here last week, and like we do with everything, we didn't just bring board members. We had representatives from our board, which is from our student group, and one of the members was a student who started in our councils, was relatively quiet. She found her voice, and she took one step into another, and by the time she was a senior, she was effectively the leader of that chapter group. And she talks about the work she was able to do as really as transformative a journey as she found, and it encouraged her to build her own nonprofit. And what's amazing to me, and you were hitting on it, Tanya, is our model is we really focus on meaningful connections and kind leadership. And so I think there's this stereotype that leaders are these bombastic, larger than life, don't really tell the truth, but they speak loudly. And maybe I'm talking about a former president, maybe I'm not. And they just, but to me, that's not what leadership is. To me, leadership is vulnerability. Leadership is having the ability to listen and gather and to understand everybody within your group and to bring folks together and to do that empathetically. So I remember right from the beginning going and sitting and watching these councils in the first years of them. And one of the coolest things I saw when our teens were talking together is they picked up this yes end, right? So, you would talk, Tanya, and you would have a great idea, and somebody would snap and say yes and like just that whole notion that like I'm going to take your idea and I'm going to build on it, right? To me, that says so much, as opposed to people being like, no, I disagree, or no, it's just the opposite. It's how can we build? How can we take? In this instance, it's 12 or 14 amazing high school students. How can we take their collective voices and the things that break their hearts? Food insecurity became a really important topic as we went through the pandemic, and it's just amazing to see the work that our teens did. But it's by working together and solving these issues and figuring out how to work as a group. And by this work, what we're seeing is, as now our students are going off to college or coming back afterwards, that to your point, they found their voice. And whether they want to go into the nonprofit space, or they want to be activists, or they want to, and please, we need this. We need some of our amazing young people to actually get into government and to effectuate real change, right? But what we try to encourage is leadership and this ability to really encompass service in everything you do. And so if you choose to try to become a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, great. But remember your roots and pay it forward, and make sure that you're creating that path for folks who are coming after you, right? And so just continuing to lay that foundation. And almost everything we get doesn't come from me or my board. A lot of it does come from our amazing, amazing staff who are just, you met a couple of them. You met Shonda and Christine, Dr. O'Connell, who's our ED. You know, I've had some of my team's been with me for 7 years, right? We've only been doing this for 8. And we've had almost no turnover. These are just incredible people. But almost everything that actually gets done, almost all, like our call for kindness, came out of our youth council saying, we love what we're doing in New York City. What if we could do some of these projects and do it on a national basis and then create a cohort group and then get people together? So like everything comes from our youth. And all we're doing, it sounds simple because it kind of is we're getting them together. We're encouraging them to listen to adults and to each other, but we're really just giving them the opportunity to connect with each other, just like Riley wanted to do with her friends, to connect with one another, to do yes ands, and to have that be the formation of their own individual journeys. And
So you
the
taught
thing
me something.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
taught me something. I often say people don't listen to hear, they listen to respond. They listen to rebut. Yes, and is they listen to include, they listen to increase awareness, increase the positive effects, increase the work that we can do. I'm going to take your idea and build on it, not block what you're saying, not rebut what you're saying. So the way that you teach that technique, what is that? Like, because I think there might be some adults that could use that too. So what is that thing that you teach, the and how has it been tough? Like, is that a tough transition, or because they are teaching kids, you know, they pick it up rather quickly?
So let me start with this. The first programs that we started with was we started with 3rd and 4th graders, where we're going to inner city schools, and I had a wonderful teacher from one of our schools we were working with, who came up to me really early on in the journey. And I don't know what it is. I get a lot of people who almost want to grab me. So she pretty close to grab me, and she's like, I'm so sorry about your daughter. And I love what you're trying to do. She's like, but you need to be very careful here. You need to understand that you're not teaching students kindness, right? This exists in all of our kids, that you're going to try to figure out ways to draw it out of them. And some of them it's present in spades and they live it every day. And some of them we have to work on it. And I really want to stress that in the question you asked, Tanya. The yes end wasn't something we came up with as part of Riley's Way curriculum. The yes end was the way that our teens interacted, the way that they fostered this environment of inclusivity. So much of what we do, I'd like to tell you, we have all these incredible ideas and we came up with this magic formula, but it's not true. What we've done is we've created a safe space for amazing, kind change makers to get together, whether that's on a tri-state area, whether that's on a national area, whether it's virtual, or we do our own. We actually run in-person retreats at the camp where Riley was, which is incredibly meaningful and special. But in all these instances, we talk. I tell my story. I tell what we do. Christine, Dr. O'Connell, and our staff lead folks on exercises. But we're very careful here. Our goal is not to teach. Our goal is to get folks together and to connect and to let the magic happen, and then to give the fuel for that. So we don't just run a call for kindness and give a micro grant, but for those who want to continue, we run continuation grants. We don't just run these programs up until when our teens go to high school. Now we're going to expand it to college, and we track all of them. And when they're finished with college, we want to know where they're going. And if they want to go out into the world and run for Congress, we were lucky enough to have Crystal Hudson, who's just an amazing congresswoman, who we got a chance to speak with at one of our networking events and expose to our teens. Our job is to take amazing people have them interact with our teens. Hopefully our teens pick something up out of it. But I want to be very clear. That teacher at my first year of doing this, she set me straight properly. Our job is, we're not teaching. We are very clearly pulling out the magic and letting that happen. And we're the ones who are learning. I've learned more over 8 years with my teens and my community than I have in the 40 years beforehand, no doubt.
Well, like I said, you've taught me, and it's only been 30 minutes. So I want you to let the people know, though, because I know there's people watching, there's people that can watch and listen later and all that cool
Sure.
stuff that are going to say, how do I get in touch with him? How do I keep in touch with this program? How can we expand this program to where I am and to where my kids are at? Talk to the people about what next steps look like for getting in contact with you, staying in contact, and supporting Riley's Way.
Yep, it's super easy. So our website is rileysway.org. So that's the easiest way to check us out, understand our programs. And one of the best things you can do is to let amazing teens in your world know about our programs and reach out to us, whether they want to apply for the Call for Kindness, whether they want to think about coming to one of our virtual networking events or an in-person retreat, or whether they want to think about starting a chapter in their own schools. We are Instagram. We're youth led, and so my amazing team does a great job. So we're at Riley's Way Foundation. Follow us on Instagram. Same thing on Facebook. Twitter is at Riley's Way FDN. But really the easiest way is rileysway.org. And anybody can support what we're doing. If this resonates with you, take a look at our work. Try to find a couple of folks in your world who you think would be interesting and would like to learn more about the work we do. We've had just an incredible outpouring of donations and support. It's less about the dollar amount than finding new people who want to support us. So, even $1, just knowing that somebody saw what we were doing and it moved them enough. We are very cognizant of the fact that, we're in uncertain economic times. So anybody who feels like that's the way they want to support is great. But the best thing you can do, quite honestly, is just join our community, get attached to our newsletter. So there's an ability to do that on our website, and just see what we're doing, and then get teens in your orbit to know about us, because that's all we're just going like this. We're just like, listen, so I'm a crazy human. I don't have a moderation button. And so my dreams for Riley's Way, I beg my team to dream big. Like, whoever the most impressive speaker they want, whatever the craziest program they want to go to, wherever they think they want us to be, that's my goal. My goal is, in the same way that people think about Teach for America or the Peace Corps, that they'll think about our Riley's Way participants as really the teen kind ambassadors. And so we're building a movement, and we're 8 years in, and the goal is it'll outlast me and you and everybody. And it just keeps cycling, because this is, unfortunately, the work we're doing each day becomes more important. And I'd love to get to a point where that's not the case. And I think our teens are going to be the ones who fix it.
I love that. You are building a movement, and you are also building a legacy for your daughter. And that in itself, sir, is amazing. So I want to thank you for being here, and let you guys know that in the captions, we'll have all of the ways to contact him and talk about Riley's Way and how you can participate or help expand the program, because I definitely think waving your arms in the air brings people like us into your orbit. And I would love to see this legacy extended far beyond the East Coast. I'm a little salty about that, but we'll fix that. So with that being said, thank you so much for spending time with us, for opening your heart and opening up about something that was so important to you. And, you're in my heart, you're in my prayers, and definitely on my mind in regards to how we go ahead and expand Riley's Way and how we can all work together to continue that legacy. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tanya. It was so nice to speak to you, and really just thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and your community. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, guys, you heard it here. All the information will be down in the captions. I want you to take the time to get connected on the newsletter and everything that they're doing. I know y'all know some kids out there that are mouthy and opinionated and not sure what to do with it. That's leadership, right? It's someone telling them you have the ability to change the world with your thought leadership, how you think about things, how you solve problems, how you bring people together. He shared with you some pretty sentimental moments about his daughter and how she loves bringing people together of different backgrounds. And some of the things he talked about was very important. Some of the kids that come from the backgrounds they do, many times not sure what their worth is. But we know they are the future. So identify those young people around you. Make sure that they become a part of, if nothing else, the newsletter. But I have a feeling there's an opportunity to really expand Riley's memory and her legacy through this organization, and probably some young people that didn't even know about it before. So you be the change and you bring them into this circle, because knowledge is power. And now that you know, you can't say you didn't know. And what are you going to do with it? So thank you guys for being here. As always, you can always find me at Tanya Mackenzie PR or Sand and Shores. And if you have a guest that you think is leading the way, send them to me. We love talking to people and finding out the story behind the story. So until next time, take it easy.